Testing. Chomdende, Jedun Jambe Yang La Chongze Loi, Kange Lode, Dimye Tindera, Nyetara Namdaya Rapso, Jinye Tunke, Jijia Zikira, Nige Tukara Legbamze, Kangdai Sipe, Tundaya Mare, Mentaya Dungai Chisir, Do Tsoi Kun Lai Pu Che Tar Se Yen Lai Chu Chu Yang De Song Dok Tarai Ke Do Nyi Mo Nyi Lo Le Ke Kya Do Dong Ze Ma Re Mi Se Dong Ai Nyi Gu Ge Nye Kyun Ze Ra De Nam De Ne Ta Je Sa Kyu Dar Song Yuen Den Lun Zo Gya Se Tu Vek Chu Tai, Chu Tai, Chu Nye, Gente, Dog Le, Meze, Jambe, Yang Lai, Du. Tse Den, Kyu Ye, Ken Ra, We Se, Ke, Dog Le, Timo, Min Pa, Rab Sa, Ni. Ka Dang, Ten Che, Yung Lo, To Gua Ye, Lo De, Po Gwe, Nang Wa, Tse, To, So. Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are not very tired or sleepy, because some of you just arrived, I guess. Some of you arrived, maybe a few hours back. So thank you very much for being here. And on behalf of KIBI, I should say, I welcome all of you with all my heart. I don't know how big is my heart, but with all my heart. It's always, in Tibetan we have a word, Lamas always use this word, we call, Dharma gossip, actually. There is a term we use called Chujimbeltam, sort of Dharma gossip, in a very nice way, in a very profound way. They always say that, let's gossip a little bit about, of course, that is gossiping about Dharma in a very profound way. So I guess that's what we are going to do for this, I guess it's a week or maybe over a week. It's always, very, let's say, joyful, I guess, and very, special when we discuss about Dharma, because I think it brings a lot of, maybe not always, but oftentimes it brings a lot of inspiration, lots of devotion, and of course knowledge at the same time. So it's always very, special, I guess, memory-wise and everything-wise. And also, of course, in life, teaching, discussing Dharma is, I think, one that really, helps one in many ways, actually. Not just like for this time, actually, like in general, I would say. So participating in Dharma courses, and but also, doesn't have to be always in a course like this. Can be discussing with our friends, Sangha friends, at a small house, in a small apartment. But nevertheless, you are, discussing Dharma, so it's actually exactly the same, right? Wherever you go, because we are trying to really learn Dharma so that we learn something, so that we can help other people learn something. So that's actually good. That's a very good cause, one of the best cause, so to speak, in life, to help oneself, to help other sentient beings. So those are, what we call as some of the meaningful, things that we do in our life. Of course, we do a lot of things in our life, but that doesn't mean everything is so very meaningful. It doesn't have to be that everything's meaningless. It doesn't have to be that way, but maybe not as meaningful as, engaging in Dharma, I guess. But otherwise, life has its own meaning, as all of us know. Quite different than Dharma, I would like to think. Anyways, so yes, I just saw the schedule, so it says introduction about the course. About the course, I don't think I need to introduce anything. I even don't remember actually. All I know is Karmapa is going to give us teaching on Bodhipath. On Bodhicharya Avatara. And the rest, I really don't remember what their teachings are all about, but there are many, teachers who is going to teach us a lot of stuff. So we need to listen to a lot of stuff, which is, really good thing actually. As far as KIBI itself is concerned, then I think a lot of you are aware that KIBI has been, conducting different types of courses over many years actually, as you know, over 20-some years has been providing with different types of courses, academic course, that which we have, and then of course other courses to help, mainly really to help people, our sanghas belonging to our, school in the West, as most of you are aware of that. And in my thinking, it's been quite successful, so to say. That's what I think. I'm not saying this because I live in KIBI, but generally over the years, I saw that, people really, again and again come back and participate and try to learn a lot of things. So from that point of view, 16 Karmapa's wish, Shamaramachi's wish, of course Karmapa's wish, all of those wishes that they have. And I think they have just one wish, that they want us to learn Dharma, right? All they want us to do is really learn Dharma. And not for them actually. What would they get out of us by learning Dharma? They don't really need any kind of help from, as far as I'm concerned. I cannot help them with anything as far as my knowledge is concerned. I can offer my service, whatever it is. But still, they want us to learn Dharma. All the teachers are same, Shamramche, Karmapa, 16 Karmapa, because they, of course, know that one that can really help, sentient beings, including us, is the knowledge, and the knowledge, of the Dharma is the best. So therefore, they always encourage us, to learn, encourage us to teach, and therefore, the KIBI was born from that, actually born from 16 Karmapa's wish. I think most of us are aware. I heard from Shamaramachi and from Khenpo Tsering also will teach many times before, that 16 Karmapa actually had, wish to establish, we call Sheda Institute, in Tibet also for the monks and nuns. But somehow, because of circumstances, they have not been really able to establish a very, good institute from the Kagyu monastery, so to speak. That's my understanding of it. So Karmapa always had that in his mind. Of course, I'm speaking about 16 Karmapa. And this is why also the Nalanda Institute, where I studied in Rumtek, was actually born, so to say. Because 16 Karmapa, had this urge in him that he really want to have this, field where he can provide his, monks, nuns, and of course his followers, where they can study Dharma. I don't think his idea was that he want to make them scholar, actually, in terms of Khenpos, all that. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. It's a very good thing. But his wish was that he wanted to have this place, an institute where his followers are not so very ignorant about life, so very ignorant about Dharma, because he knew importance of the knowledge. And he wanted, his followers to really educate themselves in the fields of life, in fields of everything. And, not just for enlightenment, but also in life, also on the practice, we need to learn, right? We mainly learn, Dharma, not really to become a scholar like Nagarjuna or Aryadeva or that. They also didn't learn to become Nagarjuna Aryadeva. They just learned because they didn't know a few stuff. And then they want to improve themselves. And then they became who they are, actually. Same like everybody, like our own Genla, Professor Sempadorji, he's same. I mean, he went to Tibet to learn all. I don't ever think that he had this in his mind that he will become this kind of great scholar at all, but he became. So, but what my point is that you learn Dharma, really it is to help us to on our path. We need those, knowledge and wisdom so that we can progress on our path, right? As in whatever practice we may be doing. Mainly, I think we are doing a lot of Mondo practice, but it's not easy practice, actually. We really need to learn so many things about the meaning of everything about, like 4 thoughts, for example, that turns your mind away from samsara, we call it. In itself, it is like really the foundation of Buddha's teaching, for example. And that alone can help us to gain, to generate bodhicitta, to generate compassion, kindness, renunciation, everything, in fact. So therefore, they wanted us to learn, and then, so we had Nalanda Institute, and now we have this. Of course, now we have Kalimpong. We have many other, thanks to Shamromche, other Shedas, actually, as well. But KIBI, as you can see, is really meant for people in the West. So has been providing those courses that I mentioned earlier, and I think it's been quite successful. Thanks to all of you, actually, because if people from West would not come, then there's nothing much we can do about it, actually. So it's like we in Tibetan we say tendel. It's a very good word. Actually, it is tendel. Teacher alone, what is he supposed to do? Sit on this seat in an empty house? Doesn't make any sense. He also needs, someone to be taught, like Buddha. Buddha became enlightened. But if there were no one, who would listen to him, then he can't do nothing much about that. So it's a tendril, Buddha was there, and then his, let's say, disciples came around, and they together were, then flourished the Buddha Dharma, and thanks to them, we still have Buddha Dharma. And like us, actually, we are doing almost pretty much the same thing, I think. We have our teachers, and then, we become sort of their, descendant in some ways. I mean, we do our best to share our Dharma knowledge, and then those people to whom you share Dharma knowledge, they share it to other people, they share it to other people. So in this way, then it reach out to a whole lot of more people than you think, right? It's not just us here. When you go back, you share your whatever you heard, knowledge to other people, and in this way it'll reach out. The Buddha's teaching will reach out to a whole lot of people. And then that's really a great success in terms of, how far Dharma has reached in the minds of sentient beings. But this doesn't really mean that everyone is same on the level of practice, that everybody, has to practice on the same level. Maybe not. But nevertheless, we have been able to plant the seed of the Dharma in their mind. And then when there are better conditions for them, they will also do the same thing. But if there would be no seed in the first place, there isn't really much they can do about that. So then these all comes, quite nicely together, I would like to think. That is really tendril, actually. The Tibetan word tendril is very nice. I don't really know how to translate that literally into English, but it kind of means, dependent. Everything's dependent, Dharma is dependent on Buddha, and Buddha's teaching, how far they will reach sentient being dependent on his sanghas, right? And then vice versa, all of that. So, yes, so that's pretty much about KIBI, so to speak. And the topic I have actually is about Buddha nature mind, as all of you are aware. It's very, very good topic actually, and also a topic that is very vast. Yes, and something that we really should know about, actually, I think. And I'm very sure a lot of you know about Buddha Nature Mind. So I'm going to just, speak about it, whatever I can remember about it. So to say, whatever pops up in my head, I'm pretty much going to say that. Like I was saying, we do Dharma practice, and Dharma practice includes a lot of things. For example, we take a refuge vow, we take bodhisattva vow, and then in Vajrayana we have, bodhisattva, Vajrayana vow, right? And then empowerment, all of this. And all of these are, very profound method, actually, conditions. And these are conditions to really awaken the Buddha nature mind that is in us, If I say that Buddha nature mind is like a seed, it is actually okay to say that way, so to speak. If we would not have this potential, the Buddha nature mind, the Tathagata Garbha, then there actually will be no point or purpose of, taking refuge, of bodhicitta, of receiving empowerment. What will they do? They can do nothing. For example, let's say, there is this huge rainfall, and usually the rainfall is good. Rains are good because, it helps, things to grow, so to speak. But if there's nothing to grow, even if it rained for ages, it won't grow anything. It will always remain dry. So Dharma is like that rainfall, right? Every Dharma we practice, teachings, from taking of refuge to, receiving of empowerment, they are like this rain, like this condition, that will help to, bring about that harvest in you. But in order to bring that harvest, you need that seed. And if you do not have seed, there will be no harvest of any kind of enlightenment qualities whatsoever in us. So then, but that is not the case actually. We experience a lot of, let's say, development, improvement. That actually is a proof for the existence or presence of Buddha nature mind in us, so to speak. Without that, then it's really not actually quite possible. Generally, we, just to give you some, let's say, idea about that. Also, we say that empowerment, for example, in Tibetan we have a word we call Minche Chiwang. It means, I'm not really speaking about Vajrayana because I'm not qualified, but just this word. It means maturing your mind stream, actually. When we receive empowerment, your mind is to be matured. And that mind, in my understanding, is none other than this Buddha nature mind. And that Buddha nature mind, that which embraces all of the quality of our own true nature of the mind. Like in our Kajupa, we use terms as unborn nature of the mind, ordinary mind. Also in Tibetan, we do say ordinary mind, unborn, the luminous, unborn nature of the mind is synonymous with this Buddha nature mind. But nevertheless, at this point of time, it's hidden beneath all these obscurations, all this karma, all this emotion that we have. So we are not really able to, see it, experience it, unfortunately. But when we do Dharma practice, in this case, I give you an example of empowerment. Minpa that is actually the word. When empowerment is given, for that matter, even bodhisattva vow, actually, or refuge vow, it actually has exactly the same impact. Really, when that is given, it exactly same impact, but we slightly have different, way of thinking about it, right? I mean, like we think, we don't maybe think that taking refuge is anything like empowerment, but in actuality there is no difference. And bodhisattva vow, in actuality there's no difference, but we think empowerment is different. It is good because I think this is our pure view towards the Dharma, so it's good to keep those views. But we also need to know the reality, actually. The reality is they are all means to trigger, to mature, our that existing, unborn nature of the mind stream that embraces all of the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Like usually we, source of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, actually. And also also the three, let's say, Buddhakayas, in fact. So if we, that is why I earlier gave you an example of this, what we call the rain, actually. So empowerment is like that rain. And we have the seed, the Buddha nature mind. And, when it meets with a condition, then the condition, will help it to manifest according to our own actually potential. I'm going to speak a little bit more, of course, on this, but right now I'm just generalizing what it really meant in that term, like Buddha nature mind, so to say. Like Lamas always tell us how important it is to cultivate bodhicitta, both the ultimate relative bodhicitta. And when we do that, it really helps our Buddha nature mind to be awakened. And then it really helps our that awakened Buddha nature mind to manifest. First, we need to awaken them in the sense, in case if they are not yet ripened, in case if it is not yet kind of awakened. We may have Buddha nature mind, but sometimes it is not necessary that that Buddha nature mind is all set to ripe. Unfortunately, they are dormant, and so therefore there will be some kind of difficulty, I would like to think. But so before it to ripe, that Buddha nature mind also needs to be awakened. When it is awakened, then yes, it gets very easy to, to mature it, so to speak. So every Dharma practice that we are practicing is really for that, actually. It's all this great method for some to awaken that Buddha nature mind in us, for some to ripen that awakened Buddha nature mind in you. So there are different steps because everybody is not exactly the same, so to say. Those generally we see people who have not yet met with the Buddha Dharma, let's put it this way, in this lifetime. They may have Buddha nature mind, but perhaps their Buddha nature mind is not yet awakened, so to speak. And those who have met Buddha Dharma in many lifetimes and who have been practicing many, many lifetimes, due to all these, huge dharmic mental impressions, habitual tendencies, then, their Buddha nature mind, especially the Mahayana Buddha nature mind, has been awakened. And then, let's say it is all set to, ripe. So if it is all set to ripe, all you need is just one small, tiny condition, actually. This is why we hear these great stories about great Mahasiddhas, Telopa, Naropa. It seems like enlightenment is so easy for them. It's not been easy for them. We must know that. We think, for Milarepa, it's been so easy in one lifetime. In the period of a few years, he became Buddha. And we think it's because there's something called Vajrayana practice, So this Vajrayana practice, because he did that, and because of that, he became that person in that very lifetime. That actually is not at all true. No one becomes enlightenment in one lifetime. We must know that. Because that would mean Milarepa or whoever it is, that they were only born that time, no? Or Milarepa, that means he only had one lifetime in the whole universe. It's actually not true. Milarepa has been in this world like us forever, actually. So during those lifetimes, then all that stuff that I'm telling you. No, really, I'm just trying to tell us we should not be also deluded thinking that, I don't have to do so much. All I need is this one stuff, called Vajrayana, and then it will do everything for me. And rest, I can just assure that you will become enlightenment without thinking, without doing practice. Sometimes people hope that way, but those are wrong hopes. I'm not discouraging anyone, but this is my thinking. And if you don't agree, I'm totally fine with that. I mean, really, but I'm just sharing my own thought. But we also have to look from the fact point of view, right? We just can't, believe in that. So what is exactly the fact, actually? Nevertheless, coming back to this, Buddha nature mind and all that, so the best thing for us really is to stick to our practice as much as we can and learn, reflect, meditate. Whatever we can do through our body, speech, and mind, it's all good, actually. It's really, really important because they all eventually will come together and then become this great merit, which becomes the foundation for our inner development, so to speak. And that actually inner development is for the development of our own, that true nature, the mind, which embraces all of the qualities of the Buddha, actually, so to speak. But there are many different, let's say, types. You have heard many times that, when Buddha gives teaching, he gives teachings according to the disposition of sentient beings, right? Actually, everybody does that. We also try to do that. I mean, in our mundane world, we also try to teach people according to their own, knowledge, wisdom, education that they have. And we think, oh, you are fit for this kind of things to do, and you are fit for this kind of, and this is actually true. Everybody is not fit for everything, actually. You are fit for something, you're not fit for something else. So why? Because that's your own capacity, that's what you have been trained in, so to speak. In the same way, in the mind of the sentient being, when it comes to the Dharma, it's exactly the same, actually. As far as Buddha is concerned, he, of course, gave teaching according to disposition. So that means according to how far our Buddha nature mind is developed, not developed, then he gave teachings accordingly. And they are named different things like Vajrayana teaching, Mahayana teaching, Hinayana teaching. We have those, different names, right? But these are different names of the potential. If I understand correctly, then it's potential in the people, actually. Buddha knew that he had to give particular Mahayana teaching to this particular audience because he saw that this particular audience, they have this seed, this potential in them to understand it, to realize it, completely and perfectly. And then he gave those particular teachings to them. And they accordingly gained that result. Let's say, became bodhisattvas. And then there are these other, let's say, audience that perhaps had, bit less potential in them. And then Buddha accordingly gave teachings to them, right? Let's see the turning of the wheel of the Dharma point of view. The very first turning of the wheel of the Dharma that Buddha gave, as we know, is the Four Noble Truths. And traditionally, we say is meant for, Hinayana, let's put it this way. So when Buddha gave those talk, he knew, of course, he right away saw the potential in those people, on those audiences. And he gave teaching, and accordingly, in that very moment, instantaneously, all of them gained their result respectively. This is how it was during Buddha's time. Now, if Buddha would have given Mahayana Dharma to them, it would not have benefited them, right? So what is the point of giving something that would not benefit them, even though it is considered higher? But it's not higher for them. So therefore, you need to do accordingly. Buddha didn't differentiate them. Buddha didn't, sort of differentiate, like this. But because sentient beings, we have our own, potential, and Buddha needed, to help us and bring us to the Dharma, to the path, by realizing our capacity, and he did that actually accordingly. So therefore we have these terms like, Mahayana, Hinayana, Vajrayana, and accordingly there are three goals. Like for example, Buddhahood, Arhathood, those, many of you may know that. Buddha did not create these things at all. So then why? It's actually our own potential. So we speak about, the potential of the, let's say, Mahayana potential, which I guess also includes the Vajrayana as well. And then, of course, the Hinayana. There are many different of those. So in general also, when we think of ourselves, we have different, interests, right? We are, let's say, attracted, let's put it this way, to the Dharma in different ways because of different reasons, not because of the same reason. And we like to do different types of practices, not always the same kind of practices. These are all signs of, let's say, usually I think it's a sign of, dharmic seed in our mind. And also, as well as then that also is a sign of, these different potentials in us. We call the Buddha nature mind, right? Potentials in us. So first we need to know that, actually. We need to know, perhaps there is a way to know that, because if I observe my own, in Tibetan we have a word called myopa, which kind of means will, or maybe will in this case, maybe not right word. Interest, what interests you more, so to speak. Some people, when they hear about Vajrayana, they experience this great connection, perhaps. Another word we use would devotion, right? But you feel some kind of connection to that, and you experience this very deep, interest, very deep, let's say, motivation in you, practice, and then some in other things, like on bodhicitta, refuge, really different things. So that shows, what kind of seed we have and what we really need to, let's say, focus on in terms of the practice and everything, so to say. So this is, then what really decides actually our path, Generally speaking, which path I belong to or yana I belong to, the doctrine, whether I belong to the Vajrayana or Mahayana or other yanas, it's not something that I can decide right now. It is, something that my own potential, the nature of this potential in my mind stream that I may have over the period of many, many lifetimes accumulated, really decides that, actually, so to speak. And this, is one of the, let's see, aspect of the Buddha nature mind. Right now, I'm just trying to, help us to understand why, we need to practice, actually. We all believe, I would like to think, that, can become Buddha, right? We are, in Tibetan, we say Sang Jesu Rungwa, which means we are not enlightened. But nevertheless, we are enlightenable, right? We are enlightenable. Are we enlightened? We are not enlightened. So why do I think that I am, enlightenable? I'm just using the direct word from Tibetan. So we believe that, actually, that, oh yes, I can become enlightenment, That's because we believe that there is this seed in us, that in the mind of the sentient beings. And that seed is seed for the enlightenment, so to speak. And because of that, we are practicing. So my point is, we engage in Dharma and all that. The purpose of doing that is to become enlightenment, as we all understand. And we trust in that because we trust, there is this seed. And it is true, actually, so to speak, like I said before. But if you're lacking that seed, there are actually examples of that. I will explain you. In Actually, some, of the great scholar also speak about, that maybe there are beings who may not really be, able to become enlightenment. There is actually a Buddha nature mind, which I will briefly explain you. Nevertheless, generally, we always, are encouraged that you must do that practice. Okay, so in my, for what I think is that enlightenment is something that if right, we don't have to worry about that. Actually, in my understanding, it's about our growth right now. Can I, in my practice, really improve? And then answer is, if you really focused, if you really, diligently practiced, you really, really can improve right here, right now. But that doesn't mean right here, right now, you will become some bodhisattva like this. But always can improve. One can always improve one's compassion. One can always improve one's wisdom. And all those qualities in us, right, by practicing, by accumulating merit, by doing purification. So there are lots and lots, really very profound and very deep improvement, let's say, in us. Buddha is the final result of those improvement, correct? Without improving right now, how are we supposed to really become Buddha in the first place? It doesn't mean you become Buddha overnight. You don't, actually, like I was saying before. So there are steps. Every step counts. And then so this is what really will help us better, thinking that, because sometimes we kind of, feel a little bit down in Dharma. And we say ourselves that, I've been practicing this many years and I don't see so much improvement. And it kind of discourages you, so to speak, But we don't really need to be discouraged. Maybe I didn't have so much improvement. Oh, that's wrong. So, okay. Maybe I don't have so much improvement because I lack something in my practice. I lack, let's say, dedication, right? I lacked commitment. I lack diligence. But nevertheless, then I expected that I will have a huge result. Of course, I will not have a huge result if I lacked all of this. I lack discipline. I lack commitment, dedication. Then how can improvement come around? Improvement in the Dharma, in terms of anything really, can come around because of these reasons. First of all, I really have to have a very good discipline and dedication and commitment. Then yes, it will really bring about that. Perhaps I'm saying to myself, so I need to understand that it is no one to be blamed. It is not, Dharma to be blamed. But I really should blame myself because I perhaps have not been, concentrating and focusing accordingly. I was distracted. So I practiced Dharma because out of distraction, then we cannot hope and expect so much improvement, right? How can I actually expect that? When I practice Dharma, I need to be not distracted. I need to be focused. I need to be concentrated, dedicated, disciplined. Then yes. But this is very rare, in us, like, for example, in me. It's very rare. But this does not mean that, we cannot do it, that we cannot, have any kind of quality. We really can. I think it starts with loving, kindness, and compassion, and bodhicitta, and wisdom. That's really the step. The first thing that really sort of improves in us are those things. The kindness will improve in us. Compassion will improve in us. Of course, altogether then brings about the bodhicitta will improve in us. If that did improve, then the rest of the things will also start improving in me. So I am now growing as a Dharma practitioner, right? Therefore, this because of the seed, so to speak. So that's, I'm saying again, because, since we have the seed, all we needed was all those conditions. And then when we have all those conditions, and when we really, in a very skillful way, uses in a very appropriate way those conditions in terms of Dharma, they 100% will produce the result. We may have all the conditions, but still if we are lacking the improvement, that means we are not using it in the best possible way. We are supposed to use those method that we have. Every Dharma teaching, every practice that we have, so that we really need to think from those point of view. We are not lacking from the seed point of view, and perhaps we are also not lacking from the elastic condition point of view. But then why I don't have improvement? Then I'm lacking something from my own end. From my own end, I'm not doing nothing. I have Lama, let's put it this, just an example. I have teaching, but I'm just laying back. Perhaps hoping that some kind of blessing, some kind of magic will happen, and then out of blue I will have something will pop up. That's very false dream actually, right? It's really, really very false dream. If you dream like that, you can dream forever. That means you can be in samsara forever actually. Perhaps a good dream, but not so useful in fact. Some dreams are really good, but it's just a dream, right? However beautiful you may be in paradise, you wish you have same dream again, but nevertheless it's just a dream. You can't really use it at all. It's just like that. We always need to think that way. Really it is that way I'm thinking. Because we do have Dharma in our life, Buddha Dharma. We belong to a lineage. We're not lacking anything from those point of view. And then like Buddha nature mind, no doubt there's Buddha nature mind. But then how come, So, of course, bluntly speaking, then laziness. We are very lazy actually, of course, especially when it comes to the Dharma, we just are tired. Even if we are not tired, we are tired, so to speak. No, really. When we are fine gossiping, talking about the world, about everything, but then you open up a book, just mala in your hand, and all of a sudden you feel tired. You feel sick. You feel different stuff in you somehow. A lot of things pops up. Yeah, so I'm speaking from my own experience, actually, as you can see. No, honestly, from my own experience. Sometimes it's very amusing, It's like as soon as I try to, and I fall asleep, actually. Oftentimes you fall asleep. But those are okay. I need to discipline myself. Those are nothing that we cannot avoid, nothing that we cannot do away with. All we need is a little bit of, encourage. I need to encourage myself, I need to really talk to myself. And that we can do, of course. So anyways, that's, so I'm supposed to teach up to what, 10:30, is that right? Okay. Yeah, so the yes, about the Buddha nature mind. Maitreya, Maitreya, Bodhisattva Maitreya's book on Buddha nature mind, which is called Uttara Tantra Shastra. Sublime Continuum is the English term for that, I think. It's one of the most well-known book actually on Buddha nature mind. And then there are also many teachings actually on Buddha nature mind, like Third Karma Parangjun Dorji has taught on that, very short version of that. In Japan we call it Nyingpo Tenpa. It kind of means presenting the essence of the Buddha actually. And it's very nice, the book of the Third Karma Parangjun Dorji, Nyingpo Tenpa. If I understand it correctly, he brings a lot from also his own other book called Samanangten, Inner Profound Meaning. And he, of course, combines in some ways. So it's actually taught more, I guess, a little bit more from the point of view of, I guess we can say Vajrayana, but it's not exactly a Vajrayana teaching though, but there are those flavor, so to speak, of those teachings in it. You would know that if you have learned about this teaching called Inner Profound Meaning, the Samanangdan, because Karmapa himself taught that, third Karmapa. And also and there actually are many, like Gambupa's own book, Dual Ornamental Liberation, the first chapter actually is on Buddha Nature Mind, so to speak. And in Sutra Alankara, of course, there is very beautiful teaching on the Buddha Nature Mind. So yes, there are many books. There are actually many, many books in Tibetan, I guess in English as well, that you can read about, the Buddha Nature Mind. So it's a very vast teaching, in fact, when it comes to the Buddha Nature Mind. Gambupa, Marpa, they say that teaching on Buddha Nature Mind, and I think they're referring to this Uttara Tantra Shastra. Buddha Nature Mind is what it is called in English of Maitreya. They say that they meaning Gambupa and Maitreya, Marpa actually says that Mahamudra, referring to the luminous nature of the mind, he says is the teachings on Maitreya's Buddha Nature Mind actually. So therefore, of course, there is this very, profound connection about, to the meaning of the Buddha Nature Mind, actually, and the Mahamudra, meaning of the Mahamudra also. Yes, when you learn more about that, they really blend very beautifully. But perhaps I'm speaking this maybe more from our own Kajipa point of view, because the commentaries that I read, of course, are more from the Kajipa Lamas and also Sakya Nyingma, and they have this, tendency of speaking about Buddha Nature Mind from the luminous nature of the mind point of view. So there's a connection to the Dzogchen, I guess, and of course there's connection to the Mahamudra teachings, and they actually are really same, in fact. Just saying that, even the word called the unborn nature of the mind, right? The luminous unborn nature of the mind, all that. But to really understand fully all that, then you really need to study that book actually called Buddha Nature Mind. So please come to KIBI again, and then we'll teach you. We actually teach that here at KIBI. Right now we have this 2 short courses. And this year we did that. Last and this year we did that, and I think we'll continue with this, even though I'm really not very sure. I think we will. And so we have those subjects, in fact, on these teachings. Just in case if you're interested, If not, you can read on your own. But how well you will understand, I'm not very sure. But nevertheless, it's always good to read about them. So yes, again, coming back to the point of the Buddha Nature Mind. Generally, especially from the Mahayana point of view, we sort of divide it into 2 categories, so to speak. Something called innately abiding Buddha Nature Mind and developmental Buddha Nature Mind. And I think this is a very nice category, actually, so that we know. There are other terms also, which I will explain maybe tomorrow. But first, today we'll discuss about these 2 types of Buddha Nature Mind. Let's say the innately abiding Buddha Nature Mind. When it is said that, every living being's mind, embraces Buddha Nature Mind, or other way around, Buddha Nature Mind embraces every sentient being. That Buddha Nature Mind really is the innately abiding Buddha Nature Mind, actually, so to speak. What is this innately abiding Buddha Nature Mind is concerned, or naturally abiding Buddha Nature Mind is concerned? It's none other than our own true nature of the mind. This, in our Kaji language, I guess we call it this luminous, unborn nature of the mind, right? In third Karma Parangjun Dorje's, Mahamudra teaching or prayer, he describes that actually very beautifully. the Buddha nature mind or the innately abiding Buddha nature. I don't think he refers to the Buddha nature mind, but I think he used the word called, Kunji in Tibetan, which means alaya consciousness, which then he is referring to the innately abiding Buddha nature mind. Anyhow, so some of you have heard teaching on that. You can go back to that. There are verses that actually speaks about it. So innately abiding, as in the nature of the mind, I should say the true nature of the mind, which is synonymous with Dharmakaya, the luminous, unborn nature of the mind. I think in what is that? In Mahamudra, I guess, we have this term I would like to share with you. In Tibetan, 3 terms are there that kind of describes the Buddhahood, the true nature of the mind, and in this case, innately Buddha nature mind. In Tibetan, we have 3 terms like, Tongpa is first word, which refers to the emptiness, and the second is Salva, which is luminous. So I guess you can say unborn, right? Emptiness as in unborn, luminous, Salva. And the third word is Ngakpa Mepa, unceasing actually, unceasing. And that describes the luminous, unborn nature of the mind actually, or the sublime continuum of the luminous, unborn nature of the mind. And that is the innately abiding Buddha nature mind. The other term, then, as I said before, it is really the Dharmakaya, because this, the innately abiding Buddha nature mind, for example, Maitreya, Bodhisattva Maitreya, says it is the source of Dharmakaya, which actually is that it is, in fact, the Dharmakaya, so to speak. So, therefore, then, this very, the sublime, unborn, luminous nature of the mind, I guess I used a very long term, unborn nature of the mind in short, is the very much the fundamental ground actually for samsara and for nirvana to appear. Sometimes like in Mahamudra teachings and the songs of our gurus, we hear those things like, that both samsara and nirvana are, born from mind, so to speak, or the ground that is mind. So in general, yes. Again, in Maitreya's, Maitreya's Buddha nature mind, he compares this to the space, actually. Just like space, which is the ground for everything to appear and disappear. Whatever appears within the sphere of space, it never affects the space. Space never changes. It is unchanging in the beginning, in the middle, in the end. It never affects it. But nevertheless, it gives space for everything to arise. In the same way, this very true nature of the mind, so to speak, is like that space, which is ground for all of these samsaric things to appear, but it is never affected by these mundane samsaric changes whatsoever, actually. So therefore, that's what we call innately abiding Buddha nature mind. Mainly, if I give you an example, there are no sentient beings who do not have, in Tibetan we call Rigpa, which means knowledge, which means intelligence perhaps. I don't know how good that word is. Let's pick a sentient being, one of the most dull or stupid sentient being. We think is one of the most stupid. Yes, compared to other beings, maybe, but they have their own instinct how to protect themselves, right? There are no beings in this universe who do not have this instinct in them, to protect themselves. Even a fish, I'm not saying even fish, something other than fish. Even mosquitoes know how to protect themselves. If you clap, they run away. If they would have no such kind of, that in Tibetan we call Rigpa actually. Well, many words are there nevertheless. So what do you think that is? That is the sign of presence of awareness in them. Actually, word perhaps awareness is a good word, I guess. I'm just using all the words that I can think of, okay? So that, because they are suffering so much, they are under a lot of, fear. But even though they have so much suffering, so much fear, but still they have that, instinct in them. They have this, sort of intuition, this awareness, I guess, the Rigpa. They sense danger. That is what I'm saying, right? They sense danger. So they have that sense, actually. So perhaps we can use the word, that word, that they have that. Why? That actually is really the sign or presence of Rigpa, which then slowly then it will become wisdom. In Tibetan, we can also use, so wisdom is a good word. I came with so many words, but I think wisdom is also good, right? You can say intelligence, you can say awareness, but I think wisdom, they do have that. Because they can sense, there is no, in my understanding, I may be wrong, of course, I think you guys have better understanding from those point of view. You learn a lot about those things, about animals. I mean, you're very well educated, in other words, really. And I'm not. All I learned is all this stuff, so I don't know much about the other things. But nevertheless, I do believe that, there are sentient, even beings in hell realm, they can sense the danger. They can, even in this, one of the worst, highest fear, biggest fear and suffering, but they have that, common sense of sensing the danger, the fear, the suffering. That actually is a sign of presence of Buddha nature mind. Actually, in this, again, Maitreya's, teaching Buddha nature mind, he says that. There's this very beautiful, line where he says that even seeing the Buddha nature mind present in the mind of this sentient being who is suffering the most in one of the worst hell realm, Buddha, made the rainfall of Dharma, something like that. Because he knew that if he gave teachings, he can protect them, so to speak. So not like literally going to the hell realm, but in that way. Because he can see that presence of. All we need is this one, Rigpa, right? After all, Buddha, we say so much, but it's a wisdom. It's not a body, it's not some kind of material stuff. What is Buddha actually? It's merely, we say fully awakened. That's actually quite good, fully awakened. Fully awakened. It's mainly a wisdom. So this being who is in the hell and suffering, he had that seed because of the reasons I told you. And if he or she, given that they meet the right kind of condition, that seed in them can grow, just like that. And they can also become an enlightened, fully fledged Buddha, so to speak. Wisdom can be fully fledged, matured, because they have seed. So what's the difference between us and them? Actually, none. Even between us and Buddha, there is none, actually, in fact, in actuality, so to speak. So that's the naturally abiding Buddha nature mind, perhaps I'm speaking about. Then the developmental Buddha nature mind actually is, of course, linked, to this innately abiding Buddha nature mind. From the force of innately abiding Buddha nature mind, it gives rise to so-called developmental Buddha nature mind. But if you taught maybe a little bit more from a rough point of view, more rough, then it means, it refers to the, the accumulation of merit and wisdom, actually. When we accumulate merit through 6 paramitas,
And then when we accumulate, let's say, wisdom through learning, reflecting, then we acquire, or we, let's say, accumulate a lot of mental impressions or habitual tendencies of those. We are referring to that. So it actually means, if you want to understand more from a rough point of view, then we can say, oh, that those are the dharmic seeds. And it is not wrong to say that these are Mahayana Dharma seed, actually, or Hinayana Dharma seed, Vajrayana Dharma seed. In roughly, that's how we can actually understand it. But then now you can understand that it is not that everybody has the Mahayana Dharma seed or Dharma seed, right? Actually, there are many sentient beings who lack the Mahayana and Dharma seed, but they don't lack the innately abiding Buddha nature mind. So what I'm trying to say is that innately abiding Buddha nature mind is present in all the mind of all sentient beings, but not the development of Buddha nature mind actually. Just to make a very rough, so to speak, difference. If you go more deeper, then you can still go. It gets more subtle actually. Very interesting, in fact. They cannot be born without that. For example, compassion, kindness, wisdom is part of course, the innately abiding Buddha nature mind. But also it is part of, this development of Buddha nature mind, so to speak. Because the essence of our kindness, wisdom, compassion, all that is none other than innately abiding Buddha nature mind. It nevertheless was born from there, correct? If you would not have that, one would not be able to develop the so-called development of Buddha nature mind. Just like without kindness, compassion in us, we cannot give rise to bodhicitta actually. But those are more from the point of view of path actually. What kind of development one experience along the path and so on that. I think I'm going to stop here because we need to invite, after me there's Genla, right? So I'm going to stop here and then I'll continue. I think I have 2 more days. So again, thank you so much for coming, and please enjoy your stay here and learn as much as you can, and please share whatever you learn from here to other, to your Sangha fellow friends. Okay, I'm going to say dedication again. Sunam de tamche zigba nye, tomna nye pe dana pamche. Chega na che bala tuba ye seben sole doa dolwa sho.
Hello, dear friends. Could everybody sit down for a moment? We just have a few announcements to make. So happy to see everybody again, old and new. My name is Daniel, and I'm helping out with a lot of the technical things here. And if you'd like to help me, I could use 1 or 2 extra people. So we're looking for a few volunteers. Also, Will, over here. If you can see Will, we need somebody to serve meals, to show up just maybe 10 minutes before each meal, to just dish out the food. And we need it for every meal or just lunch and dinner? For lunch and dinner. Will, are you here? Is Will here? We have some volunteers up here too. Actually, he's right there with the black shirt and the baseball cap. Thank you.
He should be arriving just later. Sorry, we have.
iPhone does not have radio. You need a headphone. You usually need headphones. I'll help you later.
Look at what a blue hybrid in the cup. Yeah, the cup. So anyway, right.
Okay.
So I have phone, but we need to. I don't have a password here. Yeah? For Wi-Fi, she means.
Okay.
KIBI site. I don't know. Is it working?
No, I'm going to give you the one that's in here.
Online.
I took the password.
You have to wait this time.
Okay, we use this right here. It's your second phone.
It's my second phone. Yeah, I couldn't give you the other one, but I just wanted, it's. I mean, it's all my stuff from it, so it's very confidential, and I don't want you have. You are the only one who has to put the password, and just to know what. Yeah, there is no other phone around. Well, the guy who will be sitting down there, and you need to find somebody who will be sitting and keeping eye